toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies for sure.
If you don't say we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to be resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.
Good morning and welcome to Africa's finest breakfast show. It's the weekend edition, Global Morning. My name is Anthony Momodu. Welcome into today's broadcast. The promises to be very revealing. The 5th day of January 2025. It means we're really inside of 2025 with a big shout. 5 days gone by and still many more months to come. We've got 11 sweet months to wrap this year up, but definitely a very exciting year. And as you know, you're there and hoping to make your day truly amazing by giving you all the big stories making the rounds across Nigeria's national dailies, wherever you're watching us from. You get to know all the big stories making the headlines in Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria. We're also at a point as we reach the business end of the program. We'll be talking to Ene Leslie Alexander, who is a dedicated educational consultant and also a child advocate, to be speaking to us as regards the fact that Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria, has been crying of a poor leadership and governance across the board. And so we're looking at how best to kickstart the next generation, ensuring that Nigeria produces the kind of leadership and leaders we desire. And which other best way to start that? To start from the grassroots, to start from the kids. And so hopefully I'll be having Ene Leslie Alexander, who is a dedicated education consultant and also a child advocate, speak to us on key ways to nurture children into leaders and how key it is for kids to be brought up in a very sincere and structured manner so that they become the kind of leaders we desire for our great country as the consciousness of leadership continues to sway through the African continent. All right, like I told you, we'll be looking at what the papers are saying. We'll go for a quick break. Now, when we return from the break, we'll be looking at some of the big headlines making the rounds in Nigeria's national dailies so that you get well informed as regards what's playing out, and also be giving some tidbits as regards issues making the rounds in the business sector so that you can make the right investments and the right decisions ahead of this new pleasant week. We'll also be giving some sports stories just to keep you excited so that you get to know what your favorite team and players are doing across the different leagues in Europe, and of course the Nigerian Professional Football League, which is currently on a temporary break, but we know that for Arsenal fans all over the world, last night it was a very tight one for them as they could only come out to take a 1-1 draw against a very fiery Brighton side. So we'll be giving you some other details and also entertainment, the health sector, and manufacturing sector, and of course the economy. We're getting some big headlines of what's playing out in the economy so that you can make the right choices and decisions, especially at this time when parents are also getting eagerly waiting to start paying school fees and children beginning to return back to school. Hopefully we'll also be looking at the key indicators of what should be done to always be prepared for a very interesting January that most times people say it's always very tough because it's just after the celebrations and people return back to work and return back to school, a lot of bills to be paid. All right, so hopefully as we talk with Ene Leslie Alexander, who is an education consultant and also a child advocate, she'll be giving us more details as regards how well to prepare and what to do for the future. Let's go for a quick break. When we return from that break, hopefully the papers will be waiting for us. I'll be taking you across all the papers on board. Stay with me. Welcome back from that quick break. It's now time for us to look at what the papers are saying across Nigeria. All right, let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper and see what the headlines are saying from the Vanguard. We've got the headlines, Ajaokuta project too big to be handled by government, says Alhaji Magaji Inuwa. On page 10 is where you find that big story. Ajaokuta project too big to be handled by government, says Alhaji Magaji Inuwa. So indirectly calling for public-private partnership for that project to be completed. But does he have a point in what he's saying, that Ajaokuta seems to be forever unable to be completed by the federal government? So probably with government partnering with the private sector, could that make it faster? And especially with the government, the successive government always going out of the shores of Nigeria seeking for direct investment. The big question is, how come they've not succeeded in getting companies, countries to want to come and invest in that Ajaokuta steel mills project, so that it's completed already? Remember that at the point it was said that the Russians were coming over, the point Ukrainians, the Germans, and different countries and entities were mentioned, but come 2025, we're still waiting for that to happen. Let's go for a very quick break. right, welcome back. We're still looking at the papers. We've still got the Vanguard for review. The first top story there, a Jakarta project too big to be handled by federal government. Alhaji Magaji Inuwa speaks, and that big story found on page 10. The other question will be, is it that the Jakarta Steel project is not viable enough or attractive enough for the direct investment and countries and companies to want to come in and contribute their own quota towards getting it up to scratch? Then we've got another headline story: Abuja residents to experience 16-day blackout. Is that the big story from the Vanguard weekend? We are talking about Weekend Trust, I beg your pardon. Abuja residents to experience 16-day blackout. Page 25 is where you find that big story on the Weekend Trust. Then inside Kaduna's peace deal with bandits, it's another big headline story there on the Weekend Trust. One of these headlines, Abuja residents to experience 16-day blackout. The question is it impossible for them to have an alternative source of power for the residents of the FCT at this modern times? It mustn't be blackout just because you want to do it, carry out some renovation or some repairs. There should be an alternative source of power for the residents of Abuja, because there's a 16-day blackout is no mean feat. It's going to affect businesses and families a lot, which is going to lead to damaging of food items and other necessities on the family front and for businesses. So the big question is, can't there be another source of power for those 16 days while repairs are carried out? All right, inside the Kaduna's peace deal with bandits is a big headline story, wanting to know what are the terms of that deal with bandits in Kaduna is very instrumental, and we know that Sheikh Gumi is always in the picture when it has to do with this dealing or negotiating with bandits in the Kaduna axis. So we hope that deal will be of the benefit for the people of Kaduna. All right, those are some of the headline stories from the Weekend Trust. We've got many prestige fame attracting billionaires to football. Page 37 is where you get that headline story from the Weekend Trust. Then we've got Lakubura kills 2 policemen and Russell over 200 cows in Kebbi. Very disturbing there. Lakubura killed 2 policemen, Russell over 200 cows in Kebbi. That's the headline story there from the Weekend Trust. All right, let's move on to other papers making the rounds. We've got the Punch newspaper. We've got some punchy headlines there. It says, Odili backed Fubara to disobey Tinubu, says Wike. Odili backed Fubara to disobey Tinubu, says Wike. That's one of the headline stories there. The Celestial Church loses three pastors on New Year's Day is one of the headline stories there on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. And we've got refineries, rehabilitation is the kicker. Obasanjo Carpet NNPCL says invitation to plant disrespectful. NNPCL keeps mum over allegations of insulting ex-president. That's one of the headline stories from the Punch newspaper. It says the rider, refineries, rehabilitation is the rider there. And Obasanjo Carpet NNPCL says invitation to plant disrespectful. All right, one wonders what makes it really disrespectful. I guess the NNPCL just wants you to confirm if the rehabilitation work is truly up and running. All right, then it has a little caption there. NNPC keeps mum over allegations of disrespecting ex-president. All right, so looking at the papers, what the papers are saying there, we've got my captors shot 2 children dead for walking slowly. Wow, that's a very disturbing issue there. 26-year-old undergraduate speaks. Death for fire. Pardoned convict returned home with mental disorder, says family. Then we've got filmmakers here, tales of woes dealing with cinemas. Alright, those are some of the headlines from the Punch newspaper as we look at what the papers are saying. Let's move on to the next. We've got the Nation's newspaper is up next for review. And the headline says how Delta, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Lagos and Bayelsa raked in 1.8 trillion naira in 2024. How Delta, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Lagos and Bayelsa raked in 1.8 trillion naira in 2024. States pocket 5.3 trillion naira FAC rainfall. Allocation grew by 95.49% in 2 years. All right, so states are making lots of money. How Delta, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Bayelsa raked in 1.8 trillion naira in 2024. So with this loads of money, we expect that the state government should be able to pay workers' salaries and also ensure that the infrastructure in the states are done without minimal fees. Talking about maintaining road maintenance, the health sector, the education. We hope the governors will be doing this. And with this huge amount of money, one wonders why they are still hell-bent and interested in local government funds coming their way rather than expending this windfall they've gotten already and also providing necessary amenities for the people at the state level. All right, other headline stories. I thought she loved me, says groom poisoned by 14-year-old bride. Wow, that's a very deep one there. I thought she loved me. Says groom poisoned by 14-year-old bride. That story found on page 2 of the Nation's newspaper. Petron seeks privatization of Port Harcourt Warri refineries. You find that story on page 5 of the Nation's newspaper. We've got 2025 Outlook. Grab a copy of the Nation's newspaper and see what it has in store. Why subsidy removal was necessary by Tinubu is the headline story there. Why subsidy removal was necessary by Tinubu. You find that big story on page 4 of the Nation's newspaper. You can see Mr. President dressed gorgeously in the Southeast attire there. So that it tells you he's truly Nigerian. All right, those are some of the headlines. Sorry. From the Nation's newspaper. Let's move on. We've got This Day newspaper up next for review. This Day has headlines. Tinubu in Enugu says it's time to unite and build Nigeria. Tinubu in Enugu says it's time to unite and build Nigeria. That's what Mr. President is saying, and I'm sure his visit to the Southeast region will do lots of good in cementing and assuaging the feelings of the people of the Southeast, and of course will make them feel closer to Mr. President, and who knows, Nnamdi Kanu's release might be also closer with that visit. All right, we've got valuation of GT Co and 9 other banks rises to 7.87 trillion in 2024 amid banking recapitalization drive. And that's the headline story and the marks of this day. Valuation of GTCO and 9 other banks rises to 7.87 trillion in 2024 amid banking recapitalization drive. CDS to frontline troops take the fight to the criminals' hideouts, flush them out completely. The Chief of Defense Staff to frontline troops take the fight to the criminals' hideout, flush them out completely is the charge given by Christopher Musa to his soldiers to go out there, the military, and flush out the criminals once and for good. And we remember very much that Mr. President had said he gave the Nigerian military by the end of 2025 to ensure that all criminals and criminal-minded persons, especially terrorists, the Lakurawa group and others, are flushed out from the country completely. So let's see. Hopefully, our military will be able to achieve that mandate before we turn to the end of the year. All right, those are some of the headline stories making the rounds from this day newspaper. Let's move on. We've got the Vanguard up next for review as we look at the big stories making the rounds. We've got opposition parties struggle for realignment is the headline story there from the Vanguard. It says, how 2025 will shape 2027. How 2025 will shape 2027 is the kicker. Opposition parties struggle for realignment as eyes on Obi, Atiku, Kwankwaso as personal ambitions overshadow Labour Party and PDP. That's one of the. And we also have NNPP merger talks. It's also on the horizon. We have 2025 is not 2020. It's not 2025. It's not 2013. APC speaks on potential candidate Tinubu. All right, let's move on to other headline stories from the Vanguard. Yes, we're looking at the Sunday Vanguard. We've got Alaba Rago is the kicker. Where nothing goes to waste. Alaba Rago is the kicker. It says where nothing goes to waste. All right, so we've got NAFDAC alert on fake cancer drug in circulation. NAFDAC alert on fake cancer drug in circulation. So in case you've heard of any cancer drug in circulation, just know it is fake, not real, says NAFDAC. And page 7 is where you find that big story on the Vanguard, so you can see the details of so when you see the fake cancer drug, you will be able to tell. Next headline story from the state level says Ondo SSG dies after auto crash. Tinubu, Ayedetuwa, and Sanwo-Olu are building mourn. A very sad story. Page 7 there says Ondo SSG dies after auto crash. Very sad commentary there. What a loss for the family. Grab page 7 of the Sunday Vanguard and you get details of that story. Igbo leaders beg Tinubu to dismantle roadblocks and checkpoints. Big headline story on page 34 of the Sunday Vanguard. It says Igbo leaders beg Tinubu to dismantle roadblocks and checkpoints is the headline story there. I have another headline story. Says the Supreme Court judgment is the kicker. Why Tinubu needs to order alternative dispute resolution on Best Western Hotel. That's on the business angle there. And we've got Igbo leaders beg Tinubu to dismantle roadblocks and checkpoints. That's the headline story there coming from the Sunday Vanguard. Let's see if there's any other headline story from the Sunday Vanguard. Let's move on. Those are some of the headlines, stories making the headlines. But one key one is the fact that Mr. President was in the Southeast over the weekend and did commission some special project. And the people of the South is asking the President to ensure that checkpoints and other things, roadblocks are dismantled. And we've got from the picture story, here's a picture story from the Sunday Vanguard. We've seen Mr. President trying to commission. It says Minister of Works, we've got Dave Umahi and the Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, and the Governor of the state, talking about Abia State, Alex Oti, and President Bola Tinubu, you can see in that picture story, and the Governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Mba, during the President's state visit to Abia State. And then we've got the inauguration of the multiple infrastructural project executed by Governor Mba administration in Enugu State yesterday. So the president was there to see firsthand what the governors of the Southeast are doing. And we know that in the agenda of the meeting with Mr. President is the visit on the release of Fernando Kali is being pushed forward, and also the removal of dismantling of checkpoints and roadblocks in the Southeast. And also, I'm sure in exchange, Mr. President will also want an assurance that the stay-at-home phenomenon will be a thing of the past if some of their prayers are granted. So those are some of the things that are playing out from the Southeast, and also we have a very interesting talking point as regards how 2025 would shape 2027 as opposition parties are struggle to realign. So the big question is, why they're not realigning? Is it because they're putting personal interests above the interests of the Nigerian people and of the Nigerian nation? That's one of the key reasons they definitely would be finding it difficult to realign. A very sad commentary coming from Ondo State, where the state's SSG passed on after a car accident. Very sad commentary there for the people. Our heart goes out to the people of Ondo State after they lost their SSG. All right, so those are some of the headline stories that made the rounds this morning, especially starting from the point where Obasanjo is at crossroads with the NNPCL over his invitation to come and witness firsthand what is happening at the refineries in Port Harcourt and Warri, and the ex-president says it's an insult to invite him. All right, so that debate will be going on for the course of the week. Is it an insult or just a way of giving a reassurance that things are up and kicking? Then we've got the FCT minister there, Wilson Wike, in the Punch newspaper, where he says what the lead backed Fubara to disobey Tinubu, trying to stoke more fire, playing the devil's advocate there to what benefit is the big question there. Also, those are some of the big stories making the rounds in the papers. Now you know what the top stories are saying across board, and we'll be going for a quick break. Hopefully, when we return from the break, we'll be talking about the issue of future leaders, nurturing kids to become great leaders is what we'll be looking at. And I told you earlier on, we'll be having an education consultant and also a child advocate in the person of Leslie Alexander, who will join us via call to give us up to scratch what are the measures, what are expected from parents and guardians in order to lead these children right. And we also have a very interesting story that did pop up from the Weekend Trust, talking about the peace inside Kaduna's peace deal with bandits. How well is this peace deal, and of whose benefit would it be on the long run? And will they stick with the parties, stick to these deals without compromising it anywhere along the line? Is one key issue. Then also talking about residents of the FCT, are they ready to face 16 days of no power supply? But the question to the TCN, the transmission company of Nigeria, is, can there be another source, alternative source of power that can power the FCT and its environs for the 16 days that repairs are going to be taking place, rather than leave us in darkness? There should be a way out around this power issue in the next 16 days. Very disturbing, and we know that power is very essential for businesses and other activities that would be carried out. And the final talking point as regards all the papers were saying this morning, the Ajakuta Steel project, where Alhaji Magaji Inuwa says is too massive for only the government to be involved in, and expects the private sector to also key in. And we hope, but the question is the Ajakuta Steel project still very viable? If it is viable, how come companies are not interested in trying to vie for it? So that's a very big question that the government and the relevant authorities should be able to answer. Let's go for a quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be talking to Ella Leslie Alexander, who is an education consultant and a child advocate, to help us look at how best we can nurture our young ones to become future leaders that will drive this country to its promised land. Welcome back from the break. You're watching Global Morning, Africa's finest breakfast show, and it's now time for us to get into the discourse where we're looking at future leaders, nurturing children to become leaders. And I told you we'll be talking to a guest who is joining us via a phone call. We're talking to Leslie Alexander, who is an education consultant and also a child advocate. She's got expertise in nurturing children potentials. She's been doing this for the last 20 years, committed to empowering young minds and fostering academic and moral excellence and promoting holistic well-being. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Global Morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
All right, Nigeria has been facing a mirage of poor leadership and governance, and the aim is to create great leaders for the future. Just take us through how important it is for us to shape in the minds of the young ones through the religious route and morally and also their education.
All right. Okay. First of all, parents, teachers, and mentors have a very important role to play in this. You know, our key responsibility and role is, first of all, having to be very intentional guidance to children. Children, I used to have a mantra that says every child is a clean slate. True. So whatever you put into them very early in life, they grow and become that. So every parent, every teacher, every mentor and role model to children must be very practical and very intentional. You must realize that these children have something inside of them. They have potentials, no matter their background, no matter who they are, no matter the traits you see they possess, they have something inside. You must look out for it from as little as when that child is a baby, as one from the ages of 1, and then be very intentional about supporting these children, being very determined to guide them, encourage them with the right, with the in the right direction. So I would like to suggest some ways and some things that as parents and role models we should be doing for these children. First of all, is that if you kill a child's confidence, the child is gone. You must, as parents, be very intentional about building these children's confidence. Build their confidence early, using various strategies, developing their minds in school, their storytelling times, their role plays where you bring the children out to, make them showcase various talents. That way, children are built into the place of confidence. You don't kill a child's strength because you feel the child is not very confident. You develop it, you make it grow. You help these children become who they should be intentionally by helping them, by encouraging them. So confidence building is one very important area that these children need. Another one is that you expose them early as parents, as teachers, as role models. Expose them to leadership qualities. Expose them to what is happening in the country today. Expose them, take them through, discussions that would involve these particular types of scenarios. It will help them, ask them critical questions that they could give. Okay, what about if it's you who is the governor, who is the president, what would you do in this kind of situation? And then you listen to them talk. You must involve these children. The children are not to be left and then you say they are small, and then at a particular stage you now expect them to begin to show those leadership traits from a very early stage. As parents, as mentors, we must be determined to build these qualities in them. See their strengths, help it, nurture it to grow. Take them through community services. For example, Christmas period like this, you could take them to orphanage homes, help them, share out, collect donations for orphanage homes from their schools, from some friends around. They drive over there, make them do something for the less privileged, make them have speech, talk, say one thing or the other. That way, these children are being nurtured into becoming future leaders. And then making them understand that the country, the world is a class of having different kinds of people. So they should be able to understand every level. So
Okay.
they don't just know themselves for who they are, and then they cannot be empathic towards other people or show sympathy towards others. So teaching them all of this is very important.
All right.
I think
All right. Let's look at. We know that. Just like we have good leaders, we've got some not too good leaders. We have some good kids, not too good kids. How, as someone who, for the last 20 years, you've been in the education sector and also a child advocate, how best can we put children that seem to be wayward back on track without killing their confidence, like you rightly pointed out? And what are the strategies parents can use so that they don't overkill in the bid to correct, kids that seem to be stubborn?
Okay. Thank you for asking that question. For me personally, being a child advocate, the fact is that parents must understand that these kids, most of the time, their tantrum starts at the point where they are teenagers, most of the time. And the problem we have, what brings this on, is the fact that the right time for parents' correction for children, the right point where parents should be training their children rightly, it's the point or the place where parents have left their children believing that, they are small, they're just babies, they are growing, they're not yet there yet. Allow them, let them just have their space. They don't put them to work, they don't put them to do anything. That's why if you remember, I started that from the time a child is born, you start your training. You don't leave that child to his 12 or 13 and then you say, go and wash the plates, do this. At that point, the child is not used to it, so he definitely will throw tantrums, because specifically for teenagers, they've got to that point where tantrums they must do those things. So the fact is, I would advise parents to start this nurturing, this training early. And then when you come to the point where you have kids that are stubborn and all, most times it's not by screaming you get them, it's by talking to them, it's by looking them, discussing what's the problem, find out from them, try to understand that you are in another age as a parent. If you are not in this world, okay, I've heard a lot of people say we're in the Gen Z generation. Our children are definitely different from us. So you don't expect to totally raise your child the way you were raised. But I think strongly, if you can understand them, you can relate with them as friends, or beyond being, trying to be that boss, that parent boss. You get to know their friends, gist with them once in a while. You get your children to that point where they are obedient to you. They find it easy to tell you how they feel. They are not scared, and so the stubbornness will be mild.
All right.
But it's one of those things.
All right. Let's as we wrap up, what are some of the key characteristics of good leaders that we should be able to, imbibe or, instill in children as we try to nurture them? What are the key, characteristics of good leaders that children need to imbibe as young as they are? And for you as an advocate and education expert, how easy or difficult is this journey?
Yeah, one of the key characters and key rules that these children should learn and they should learn and know from very young ages the point where they must be empathic. They must be able to listen to what their followers are saying. Listen to others. They shouldn't take irrational decisions, because it pleases me, it's fine. From a very early stage, if an elder brother is having a younger sister and she wants this, sometimes you just give it because you don't have to have it. You just let it be. So one of the greatest things I would say is the place of listening to what the other person is saying, listening to what your followers are saying, and then the point of corruption, we have children that before they do one task or the other, they are asking you, what would you give me if I do this for you? You are already drawing and calling corruption into place. So I know one of those things that have destroyed and has affected our country so far is corruption. There's no fairness. So teach our children to be fair, teach our children to be empathic, to show empathy towards one another, teach our children to love, to love, and then to listen. Ensure that they solve problems, not just mention problems. That the place of critical solving, critical analysis from schools, if we do that, that would help us have leaders that when there's a problem, they're thinking through it, they're finding solutions, and they're solving. The important emphasis is that they can solve problems. That's a true leader. Thank you.
All right, what would be your last take home you want to give to parents and even the children, for those who are listening, and for us as a wrap up?
Okay, thank you very much. For our parents at home, like I said earlier, and I will still say again, don't wait till your child is a teenager before you have to do all the training. Start early. Develop critical thinking skills. As teachers, help these children give them the opportunity to explore their world. Don't just leave them. And then realize for children what their passions are and help them motivate them to get to that point. And sweet children, always know that there's something great inside of you. You can be that thing you want to be, and no one can stop you but yourself. So keep working hard, keep doing right, and soon you will definitely achieve. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That's Leslie Alexander, education consultant and also a child advocate. Thank you very much for joining us on Global Morning, and we wish you a very beautiful day ahead.
You too.
All right, so we've been talking to an education consultant there, and who also doubles as a child advocate. She's been doing this passion for 20 plus years, trying to instill the needed qualities needed for Nigeria's next generation. And we hope this will continue across board as we seek to make Nigeria definitely a better nation. And we hope that it's something every one of us have to try to play our own part. Talking about a personal mission for her, talking about and she says her personal mission is empowering children to reach their full potentials and through inclusive, supportive, and engaging all-round experiences, which is a very great, lofty idea. I want to say thank you for getting that job done. So that's how much time is going to take. It's going to allow us on Global Morning this morning. I want to say a big thank you to the entire team, the man behind the scene, the cameraman behind the scene, Okon Jeremiah, and also Triple D at the MCR. And also not forgetting the editor on seats, Kareem, for doing a great job. And my name is Anthony Momodu saying thank you for being part of Global Morning, and we wish you a very fantastic week ahead. Good morning.